Should I hit the gavel? Yeah, right. Call to order. Hey, Chris, are we good to go? Good? Yeah. Well, good evening. Good evening. I want to first of all, thank everybody for coming tonight. We're super excited to put this presentation on for the community, not only for those that are here live, but we're also streaming on YouTube. So we're excited that even if folks can't be here tonight, they can watch it at home or watch it in the future. So super excited. My name's Devin Graham. I'm honored to serve as the fire chief for the city of Fountain. And I really appreciate everybody coming and also appreciate everybody here that's on our panel, our makeshift panel. We're a motley crew, but we're here to help hopefully answer any questions and provide information to the best of our ability. So before we get too deep into it, I would like to take an opportunity to let everybody up here introduce themselves. We'll start over here. He's not mic'd right now, but you're going to get a dose of him tonight. Lieutenant Mike Skeldum, Fountain Fire, and then I'll let everybody else introduce themselves.
Scott Trainer, City Manager.
Wayne Kresmian, Fire Marshal.
Bob McDonald, Transportation Director.
John Trouch, City Emergency Manager.
Gordy McCormick, Park and Rec Manager.
Jared Cass, Public Information Officer for the Fire Department.
Samuel Stump, I'm the Communications Officer for the city.
Taylor Murphy, Water Resources Manager for the city.
I'm Lucas Hale. I'm with Whitefield Water and Sanitation District.
So again, thank you to everybody and the team that's here. I really appreciate everybody attending this tonight. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our EMS chief and our fire department PIO, Jared Cass, and he's going to serve as our MC tonight.
All right. Well, we're going to start. This town hall is about the wildland mitigation efforts, both that are city-based and what the city is doing to manage the wildland fire risk to the community, as well as there will be a presentation on what you as a homeowner will be able to do to help protect your own property as well. So quick agenda. Like I said, we're going to talk about the city's wildland mitigation efforts. We're going to provide some information, and there will be some handouts later on what you as homeowners can do to protect your own home. There will be a question and answer session where anybody that's here live will be able to come up and ask a question to the panel about anything related to the wildland mitigation efforts of the city or things you can do to protect your own home. And then after that, we're going to have a breakout session. So we will stop the live stream, but that's where you guys will be able to have a one-on-one conversation with any of the panelist members about any questions that you guys have. So next, I'm going to invite Gordy to come up and talk about the city's mitigation efforts and our one project that we've done thus far.
Good evening. My name is Gordy McCormick. I'm the Park and Rec Manager. So the project was initiated during the Day of Service Volunteers the big portion of this project will be initiated on September 13th, 2025. We're going to have a group of volunteers that come in every year. We've identified some key areas throughout the city for them to help us clear out, mitigate, and to mitigate fires on. These areas that we've selected, the reason we selected them and ranked them the way we did is because we've caught people starting fires in there before, whether it be campfires, kids playing around in there with fireworks or whatever. Fountain Fire Department will manage the tree falling and everything. And then a few days later, the volunteers will come through and clean up all the debris. Hibbert Park, Heritage Park was our first priority. That area you're looking at, highlighted in yellow, is approximately 25 acres. Where you see the red circle on there is Hibbard Park. It's down in a gully, and we've caught kids down there numerous times starting fires, and the fire department's been called out there to mitigate fires in that area. So that's why that was our first priority, and it was really eye-opening for me. Mike can give you the actual numbers, but I sent 3 of my staff out there. Fire department sent staff out there. Colorado Springs sent some guys out there. I want to say there was between 20 and 30 people out there to cut down trees. And the amount they cut down in 8 hours, it was a lot, but it wasn't very much. It was only about a couple hundred yards. Like, that's how bad it is. So just imagine, like, even 30 people on this in a day, they didn't clear, like, I thought they could get at least a quarter mile, and they did like a couple hundred yards, and they worked nonstop. So it's a big, tall task, a big order. So whenever you hear the other briefers come up here, just please keep that in mind. It's going to take a lot of manpower to clean this up. When you go down into the east of that outlined area, it's just as bad all the way down that trail. So just want to highlight that. And then this is in Heritage as well. The yellow areas are owned by the city of Fountain. These areas all back up to homes, and there's so much overgrowth in there that's been there for numerous years. So this is why we're focusing on this area, is because it all borders homes. So we want to get it away from homes. We have over 300 acres of open space. This right here in these 2 yellow circles is probably 25 acres. So this is important for us to remove this because it is near homes. And then Mike Skeldum.
So here's a few different before and after pictures of what the work was that we've done in Hibbard Park earlier, or late last month. So you can see how overgrown the grass is right next to the trails, how much dead and dying limbs are in those trees, how close the trees are packed together. And like Gordy was saying, we came in and we trimmed up a lot of those dead tree branches. We thinned out the trees a little bit, which is actually much healthier for the ecosystem. We didn't come and clear cut and cut all of the trees down, but we wanted to make sure that if a fire were to get started in that area, it didn't have a way to really anchor and take hold and risk catching the nearby homes on fire. So the reason that these projects are such an important thing to look at now, I'm sure you may have heard of the term wildland-urban interface. You think about the homes up in the mountains of California or in the forests in the mountains. That is the wildland-urban interface, but the wildland-urban interface is also these open spaces. It's wherever developed land meets up with undeveloped land. So when you have these big open spaces right near homes, that is a wildland-urban interface, and there is a risk of wildland fires in those that can extend into the homes. Our goal is to manage it as best that we can, given how much work does need to be done. So that's all for this portion. The next portion, we're going to have Lieutenant Skeldum come up, and he's going to present to you guys as community members some things you can do to help protect your own home in case there was a wildland fire nearby.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lieutenant Mike Skeldum. I run our Wildland Division program for the city here. And again, like Chief Cass has kind of said, the importance of doing this is this has got to be a partnership. It's got to be a partnership between the city and the homeowners themselves as well. Meaning that we can't go to everybody's house, we can't go onto your property and mitigate here, but you can help us by going over some of these things here in the future if there's an event of a wildfire to reduce some of the risk, reduce some of the fuels there. You'll see in the program that I go through, it's going to explain how we kind of want you to do things. We don't want you to, like Chief Cass says, we don't want you to cut everything down, you'll see there, but we do want your help. We want to be able to protect your house. The problem is, in the event of a wildfire that I've been deployed to, I've been to California, been to northern Montana, Florida, Idaho, we are pressed with very little time. Once the fire's coming, it's usually, by the time the city of Fountain would get there to California, the fire's already been working and moving. So we're tasked and put into different divisions there to help do what's called structure protection. And we have to go to these structures and we have to decide what we can save and what we can't save. The last thing we want to do is see a house and just say it's beyond saving. Those are people's momentums. That's your livelihood. That's what you guys invest your life in, is purchasing in that. So you helping us a little bit won't guarantee that it's going to stop the fire from happening, but it will definitely reduce the risk. And in the event there is a fire, it'll help us hopefully get a jump on it a lot quicker. So moving in here. Wildfires coming, plan, prepare, and stay aware. Are you ready? So we're going to go over 3 different categories here. We're going to go over with the ready, we're going to go over the set, and we're going to go over the go. I'm going to be bouncing kind of through slides and kind of talking. So if you look here on your left-hand side, and we just kind of, Color Springs already kind of built a program, this model here, so we're kind of piggybacking off of them. They have a division that does this stuff specifically. So if you look at Garden of the Gods on the left-hand side, the 1900, and now just in 2008, and it's even worse than the overgrowth. So as beautiful trees grow and vegetation grows, it looks beautiful, but at some point that also loses moisture content in it, which becomes a hazard to us. For instance, such as like Adams Open Spaces, which is behind the library. It's a beautiful area. We like to walk through there, but some of those are overgrown. It keeps growing and growing and growing. And just because the leaves fall off doesn't mean that the tree falls down. It grew another 2-3 feet, which potentially could create a further risk. And then there's the Broadmoor. We all kind of know about that. If you look at the left-hand side there, from 1891 to 1998, it's overgrown. And looking just in the very back of there, how much it is the hillside. I know the picture's kind of dark there, but I promise you the vegetation is extremely thick. Like I said in Chief Cass's, when things start growing, they start growing into each other and they start becoming a cluster. And those clusters just intensify fires. So that's why we want to try to reduce that. We don't want to remove everything. We just want to reduce this. What we want you to focus in on the homeowner really is your 0 to 5 foot between your foundation to out, even in the city limits. As you guys seen in California, we didn't expect fires to be going through the city of California like it did, like Hollywood and those kind of natures. So with that, 0 to 5, and there will be a pamphlet that'll break down. I don't want to go over exactly everything and how to do it. If you want to come see us afterwards, we'll kind of walk you through it there. All these pamphlets are going to be back here and be available, and it'll kind of walk you through how we want you to do things. Again, this is just building defensible space. For you guys that have more than just a city property, if you have about an acre or so, we're asking you to go out even farther. Then we want you to go from 5 feet to 30 feet and really look at that to see if there was a fire that was impinging and coming towards my house, does the fire department have the resources and the capability of helping us extinguish the fire and protecting my assets? And we don't know because everybody's property is different. We don't get to go onto your property and see what your vegetation looks like, what your trees look like. So with this, I'm going to bring up our fire marshal, Chief Kresman. He's going to talk about structure hardening. He's going to go over there. It's a new thing that the Colorado's going through, so you guys will probably hear that structure hardening a lot. He's just going to briefly touch on that and go through there, and you guys will kind of see what we want and kind of would help us help you in the future. Chief?
All right, so when we're talking about structural, gotta get closer. When we're talking about structural hardening, exterior doors, the vents, your decking, base walls, exterior siding, what we're looking for is we're looking for things that are resistive to ignition. So concrete products, non-natural necessarily products, even though they look natural. With your decking, one of the big things they're pushing is the synthetic deckings, getting away from wood for the actual deck material. The underlayment and the heavy timber that's actually the structure and the support of the deck, wood is fine because it's that heavier wood. It takes more heat, more intensity, more energy to get that going, to get it started. When we talk about our vents into our attics, we're looking at the screening that's behind there. A lot of homes that burn down in wildfires due to lack of structural hardening is because those embers find somewhere to get and set, and then they get warmer and warmer and start other things around them on fire. So what we're trying to do by hardening the structure is not giving those embers a place to get inside the home, or not having a place that they can sit and generate the heat that they need to get going. With our base walls, where the wall meets the foundation, making sure that we get the debris out of there along the sidewalks, around walkways, garages. It's kind of hard to see with the light, but you can kind of see that little crack in between where the wall comes down, the foundation is at, making sure that those stay cleared out. Exterior doors, solid wood or non-combustible. Most homes nowadays, that's what we're seeing put in. We'll talk about roofing material. Did we miss a slide? Nope. So with our roofs, Class A roofing, which is pretty standard in this area, pretty much in Colorado is pretty much Class A roofing for the majority of roofs now is pretty standard. Again, when we're talking about hardening the structure, we're trying to give the structure the best chance that we can to survive a fire. Okay, we're eliminating the places that embers can go and sit, and we're giving it less combustible material on the exterior of the structure. This is two-pronged, okay? So not only do we need to harden the structure, we need to look at the fuel management around it. Okay, so that's where the lieutenant was talking about having that 0 to 5 foot. What can we have in there? We can get fire-resistive vegetation, making sure grasses are mowed, making sure that we don't have trees overhanging the roof or underneath the eaves, the branches. If we have dead and dying vegetation, we remove that. Replace it with something green if we need to, or at least trim it back to where it's healthy. When we have large groupings like the bush patches, we want to start thinning those out. It's actually healthier for those areas to thin them. Okay, so as we start moving through, anybody who's been to Hibbard Park after we've done the mitigation and had seen it prior to the mitigation, we didn't remove everything. We did a lot of what we call thinning. So we'll remove the smaller or the dead and dying and leave the mature and up and coming trees and shrubs and bushes to continue. And then the Firewise plants, there is lists of Firewise plants. Right now, I believe it's the it's the State Forest website has the current list of the Firewise vegetation that you can plant around your home that provides greenery, provides flowering and all those, but it's resistant to fire. So, continuous fuels. So it's a little bit hard to see, but in the top right-hand side of that green square, where we have lots of fuel in dense location, allows that fire to travel. We want to spread that out when we do our thinning. Our ladder fuels, anything that take that fire from the ground and move it to the canopy or move it up into the trees. Once that fire moves up into the trees, that's kind of, we're not going to be able to get it out of the trees at that point in time. We have to wait for it to come back down, or we have to go far enough out that we can provide a fire break that we can get it back out of the trees. Slope, you know, it's Colorado, we're flat, right? There's no hills, no berms, no nothing here. So slope is a big thing. As the fire starts at the bottom of a hill, it's going to preheat everything up. So if we start removing those ladder fuels and keep those grasses trimmed throughout on the slopes, it's going to help us with maintaining that low intensity if a fire does get going. Other landscape feature designs, zero-scaping of areas, being able to provide that barrier between that wildland interface where we do have fuel and no fuel or non-combustible fuel. And then grasses, leaves, and pine needle, cleaning those up, getting those out of the way, making sure that the grasses are mowed, making sure that we keep that vegetation under control. One more. Oh, got it. Oh, got it, fencing. So when we talk about our, fencing, when we're looking at fencing, what a lot of areas are starting to move towards for the WUI or the wildland urban interface is not having combustible fencing materials up against your house or within a distance of your house. So some of the recommendations are moving to a vinyl or plastic, a cement board, iron, steel wire, corrugated metals, things that, again, are heat resistant. If we're looking at that wood structure, it's that thicker membrane. Your 4x4s, your 6x6s, they take more intensity, more energy to actually ignite, where your cedar fencing takes low energy. It's very thin, it's got some wide face to it, and it's that rough outside, so it allows that nesting of embers. So. With that, I will turn the fire danger back over to Lieutenant Skeldum.
Thanks, Chief. So as you guys see here, we're not asking you to zero-scape your house. We're not asking you to cut all your trees down. We're asking you to help us So if you look at every one of our fire stations in the city of Fountain, they have these fire danger signs. We update them every morning. At 0800 in the morning, these are updated here with the current forecast that were predicted for wildfire needs, which includes weather, it includes temperature and humidity, relative humidity. Those are the three big factors there. That'll affect whether it's going to be a low, moderate, high, very high, or extreme. On top of that, why is that important to you? Because that's going to tell you to keep your eyes out if we've had multiple dry days, we got a red flag warning, it's extreme fire danger, and what happens if a fire happens at a certain area in the city? Are you prepared to take action? Does that start making the back of your hair stand up on your neck saying, okay, I need to be prepared in the event that something comes into my neighborhood and I can immediately get out? So I'm going to bring up Ben Bills. He's going to talk a little bit about the peak alerts things. So that's how we alert you. And so Ben, if you want to come up here and we'll let you do your presentation.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Ben Bills. I work for the El Paso Teller County 911 Authority. I'm the Public Information Officer. I'm also the administrator for Peak Alerts, which is our emergency notification system. Not a lot of folks know what the 911 Authority does. The easiest way to describe it is the $1.35 you see on your phone bill for an emergency telephone charge. That money is collected by the authority and then distributed out and provides equipment, training, and services to the 7 911 centers in El Paso and Teller County. The 3 major 911 centers down here are the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Colorado Springs Police Department, and Fort Carson Emergency Communications Center. A little bit about Peak Alerts. What it is a lot of folks know it by the term reverse 911, and 15 years ago that was the case. The reason it was called a reverse 911 system then is because we could grab landline phone numbers no problem, plug them into a system, and then there we had a database to make phone calls from. But as you all probably well know, the cost is not getting cheaper to hold on to your landline for any reason, so a lot of folks switched to cell phones, which there is no requirement by the FCC that they have to report those numbers to 911. So the only surefire way to get a notification in case of an emergency from a trusted source, which would be public safety, is to register at peakalerts.org. It takes about 3 minutes to create an account. You can create up to, set up 5 different addresses. All those alerts are very, very targeted. They never just blanket whole cities or towns or county-wide. They're very targeted, usually a couple blocks up to maybe a mile. It depends what the situation is. But if your address that you list in your profile is targeted for an alert, you can get the alert in the ways that you are signed up to receive them. You can pick phone call, you can pick text message, you can pick email. I'm here to tell you that I've been in this business. I went through Waldo Canyon and the Black Forest Fire. We did not have the same system then. This is by far superior to that, way more robust than we had during those 2 fires. But if you sign up for alerts to get them by that modality, we do use the same infrastructure that we make phone calls on to each other every day. So the more you sign up to get it, phone, text, and email, different ways, list multiple phone numbers, it gives us a better chance to get those messages to you. In big emergencies like fires, sometimes we see infrastructure start to get some congestion on it, especially phone infrastructure. Or if there's a fire moving through a community, if electricity gets turned off and you have a landline phone, well, that one's out of play now if it's tied up with your router for your VoIP phone, or if it's tied into your cordless phone. So just list as many ways as possible to get an alert, and we'll get those accounts created, and the second you press send, you are now registered. Just takes 3 minutes. I do have brochures on that table out there. If you have neighbors, especially if elderly neighbors or someone that may need help registering, please by all means take that information. There's also a phone number on there. If they have difficulty registering, not all people like to go online and sign up for things, just give us a call. It goes to a voicemail. We'll enter that information as soon as we get it. That way they are signed up. Peak Alerts makes notifications for 3 main categories: evacuation orders, pre-evacuation warning, and shelter in place. The odd man out, we do send missing person alerts, and then an active assailant would also fall in those categories as well, but those are the main alert types. It could be anything from law enforcement activity, fire activity, it could be hazmat, gas leaks, bomb threats, you name it. If it's a threat to the community, that's what the purpose of Peak Alerts is for. So I hope that I stand before you tonight and tell you that we never have to call you, but for the first step in your plan, you need to have a way to get information to you, and that would be signing up for Peak Alerts. We also can post to social media pages. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office would send your alerts down here. But there's some social media pages on this book. It's on page 28 if you're following along on your pamphlet. But I would follow reliable social media sources because everything we send out by phone, text, and email also goes by social media accounts. And then in the bottom right corner, there's 2 phone numbers, the 30941, I need new glasses, 35, and then the 426-2437 number. Program those numbers into your phone. That's the number emergency alerts may come from anytime there's an emergency. There's also a short code at the bottom, 88911. That way it's programmed as Peak Alerts, and then you know what's happening when you get those calls. Those phone numbers are not any way tied to those agencies. It's just we'll call it a dummy number for lack of a better term, that we put on it. So in case somebody calls back, then they get a recording that says you received a message from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, and then it reads it back to you. These systems are a blessing and a curse. How you can help us by signing up is 1, create your account so we can get you the information. But when you receive a message, make sure that you're following the instruction in the message. Please don't call 911 just to see, is that for me? Is that alert for me or what? I didn't catch the whole thing. It happens, right? So we want to make sure that we don't do the ripple effect, and now we've got the people that are generating responses. Now they're getting inundated with phone calls. So just make sure that you follow the directions within the message. I will be here for the duration of this meeting. If anybody has any questions on how the system works, or you want me to check the information that we may or may not have for you, I'm happy to do that. I checked some numbers for Fountain. We have approximately 17% of your households are registered. Down here it's pretty low. 2,851 individuals are registered down here. So some of that's because it's a little bit transient population because of the military, but there's definitely room for improvement. So if you're not already signed up, peakalerts.org. I try to say it 30 times in my 5 minutes, but I missed the boat on that one tonight, but I think we all know where we're going with this. Page 28.
Thank you, sir.
LT, I'm going to jump in here real quick and just draw attention to our police chief has joined us. He was busy doing cop work like cops do, and so he's, Chief Christiani's here with us, and so he'll be available for questions and one-on-one after this presentation's over as well. LT.
Thanks, Chief. So I'm going to speed this last part up a little bit because you guys all have the ability. We printed out plenty of copies for you to go home and take because a lot of it's just going to be checklists and stuff like that. That way it'll give you guys some time to do some questions and answers before we all go home and eat some supper. So let's finish this out. The big things that we want to focus on is make a plan. Know what to do ahead of time. If you wait until the moment occurs that something catastrophic is going to happen, you're going to be too late. Meaning that you're going to have to try to gather paperwork that you've been looking for. You're going to have to gather your pets and animals, and then you're going to have to, how do I get out of here? Well, I want to take my nice Mercedes, and I want to take my husband's Dodge. And we're just then creating chaos as we're trying to rip through the city. We noticed that in previous incidents that I was even part of with the Black Forest Fire and Waldo Canyon, a lot of people weren't doing the pre-evacuation things and waiting till the last minute and then congesting the areas there. So we say the 6 Ps that we want you to look for. We want people and pets. We want your really important papers. Number 3 is prescriptions. 4 is any kind of pictures. As mundane as that might seem, like I said, if you have like old family photos and stuff like that of loved ones, I mean, those are priceless. Those are irreplaceable. Make sure you got those in place. Like, so when you start getting those pre-evacuation notices, might put some stuff in a box, get them ready there. And then personal computers like tablets and stuff like that. And then 6, believe it or not, plastic. I mean, I know a lot of stuff does on our phones now where you can use Apple Pay and stuff like that, but you don't want to be left in the dark if you need a hotel for the night or something like that. And then you're trying to scramble to get some stuff. This is just a checklist of some emergency supplies that is just kind of recommended to take. This is not the say-all, be-all of everything. This is just kind of a guideline to help you get some kind of organization of things that you should have prepared and ready to go. Prepare your family. Like if you have elderly family and stuff like that, make sure that they got a plan, because obviously, as we know, the older we get, which I'm starting to realize, the slower you move, the faster you don't. With that being said, make sure that they have a plan, that you are really paying attention to them as well. Like if you have folks that are in a senior home or in an assisted living, that they're going to have multiple people at that point to try to evacuate in that point. And we do have the senior center. We do have an assisted living on the east side of the city as well. So Fountain is not exempt from that as well. We don't have as much as Colorado Springs, but we still do it. Young children's huge things. I mean, most of our kids are playing sports in places and stuff like that. So if you're trying to gather stuff at home and have to worry about picking them up from a soccer practice, make sure you got all that dialed in as early as possible. The file of life, like I said, is something good to keep on there. I know it says for the CSFD fire stations, that's kind of where we have them right now. They're kind of hard to get. We're going to be working on them in the future. But this will kind of just file of life, just kind of tell us a little bit about you, any allergies, any medications, stuff like that, if you wanted to write that on there. So that way, if in the event of emergency, you have all that with you. Prepare the animals, like I said, is again, as simple as it might seem, you want to make sure they have food. If they need medications, they have things that you need that's going to help you do there. A crate, because, you know, make sure you got a leash, all that good stuff. Especially if you got some livestock, have a contingent plan. We had a fire off of Autumn Place just 60 days ago? 60 days ago, I was the incident commander on that we were possibly going to have to move livestock out of the way just due to the possible threat of a wildfire in a small little area like this. Luckily, the homeowner had a good plan that they were going to move it to a friend's location there. Big thing is a family communication plan. Even like little ones like this young lady right here, she needs to know what the plan is too. Because if something happens and grandpa's running around and slips and falls, and now he's, you know, the guy with the plan, they need to know what to do as well. So you need to practice this with your family. Just like we teach our kids during Fire Prevention Month, that you need to spend that time going over that plan and how to execute it there. And it doesn't hurt to actually go through it and actually rehearse it, like kind of like we're doing today. This continues on for your family communication plan, some things to go. And then your evacuation plan. How will you leave? When will you leave? You don't want to be the person that's stuck in gridlock traffic trying to get out of there or try to get into your kid's soccer practice because now you waited so long and you didn't listen to the evacuations there. When we do evacuations, it goes through big channels. And Chief, at the end, I'll let you kind of just, if you got one, you guys want to be back here to talk about how evacuations kind of work and what it does it take to pull the trigger on one of those evacuations there. But this will give you your routes and stuff. Again, stay informed, watch our fire danger signs, see if they're going up. If they're increasingly going up every day, that means that the fire danger is getting worse. It's not going to get better. The moisture inside the fuels is coming out with the ambient temperature and the heat, so it's causing those fuels to be prime and ready to be ignited if it does have a wildfire. Observe your surroundings, kind of what's going on. Are you noticing smoke whiffing in the air? You know, are thunderhead clouds coming in? All that good stuff. And then take action when necessary. So the three types of evacuations, and you're welcome to read through them. This just talks about the instructions, what to do. There's your pre-evac warning, your evacuation order, and then your shelter in place. Shelter in place is, we got an area that we know that we can't get people out safely. So we're going to have you shelter in place, and we're going to have our crews go in there and try to mitigate that as much as possible, as quick as possible. Again, it just goes through more of evacuations, kind of like actions to take, go in there. Instead of me reading slide by slide, you guys each have your slide. You're welcome to go through it. Like I said, I encourage when you sit with your families over the next couple days, build this plan. Understand what evacuation is. Well, we live in the little city of Fountain. We can get out of here. Well, all it takes is one accident to clog up a whole roadway, and then that's the way you're going, and you're already in a line of 30 cars of traffic, and now it's supposed to be a two-way road. Now everybody's coming westbound, and there's multiple accidents, and it just shut that roadway down. So know what you're going to do, know alternate routes, and that way you could take care of your family there. Goes over more pre-evacuation stuff. Again, like Ben said, they'll send out the pre-evacuation, they'll send out the evacuation, and then if we have a shelter in place, we would do something with that there. Goes over more evacuation preparedness kind of stuff to do, how to kind of get your house ready, what to do, how to do things, a little checklist there. The big thing is here, and I know as funny as it seems, is try and stay calm. Again, I know Waldo Canyon, they were having people rear-end each other and stuff like that. Weren't paying attention. They're trying to text and drive, trying to make sure that their family's okay, and it's causing more of a hazard than it is helping people get out. if we need people to try to stay as calm as possible, because if we have 100 people in here and 5 stay calm, we're probably going to be better odds than everybody just being chaotic there. More stuff on your pets and stuff like that, just kind of talks about like having a contingent plan, like especially for huge livestock there, and then your little guys making sure you have kennels and stuff are there. That's on the peak alerts. And with that, that's all I have for our presentation there. So I'm going to turn it back over to Chief Cass.
So now we have our time open for question and answers. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to come up to the microphone and ask your question.
Good evening. Thanks for pulling this together. Really appreciate it. My name's Bob Trout. I've lived in Fountain since probably around 1973. And my motivation is I live on Hibbard Lane, and about 3 years ago, one of the houses caught on fire 2 doors down. And thanks to the fire department, it was basically totaled, but it didn't spread. Even though, the neighbors' houses, the window seals melted, the heat was extreme. I was in the backyard trying to water down whatever I could, and it scared the heck out of us, right? So just some questions regarding fire mitigation. I noticed, like I said, I've lived here for quite a while, but it seems like some days the water pressure is really low in my house. I don't know if that's an internal plumbing problem. So I'm wondering, do we have enough water pressure, and how often are those fire hydrants tested? As far as I know, that fire hydrant that's around the corner from the house that burnt down that night was working okay, but how often is it tested? I've heard stories about sometimes they tap the hydrant and it's not working, so that's my first question.
I'm Taylor Murphy. I'm with the city's water utility. I'd be happy to answer that. So first, addressing the water pressure question, our system, barring catastrophic events or multiple fires or anything like that, the pressure is usually relatively pretty stable. So if you are seeing pressure fluctuations, it may be an issue with certain valves that try to regulate the pressure in your house. If there's a pressure surge for whatever reason, it protects your the appliances inside your home from anything blowing up. So if you do have pressure issues, first I would encourage you to call our customer service group and request a meter tech to come out. They can look at some of the plumbing going into your house, seeing if it's an issue, because it probably is something to do with the pressure valve, would be my guess. But speaking to the hydrant question, from the city of Fountain's perspective at least, we have about 1,250 hydrants across the city that are in our water system. We inspect and test all of those on a rolling 3-year cycle. So at least once every 3 years, each hydrant is checked, inspected, made sure it's in good working order. They do a brief flush on it, make sure that it's working well, help stir up some of the water in the system. But we do a robust program of 3 years because we don't want hydrants out there that haven't been looked at in 10 years. There's a fire, somebody needs to go use it, and suddenly we have a bigger problem. So we do a very robust program that we've been put in place only about 5 or 6 years now, that we've been doing that on the 3-year cycle. It used to be a bit further, and we did see some issues, so we have stepped that up, and so far it's yielded great results for us finding issues and addressing those quickly when they are found.
Okay, thank you. Just got a few more questions. I think that addresses the first one. What is the general response time? Like I said, I was in my backyard that night, and it seemed like every second mattered as I was watching this house just start to burn up. What is the average response time from, say, the Fountain Fire Department on the Mesa to the Heritage Subdivision? How long does that take, or how long should it take?
Sir, there are several factors that will affect our response time. There could be a situation where that station's already on an emergency call and your first in unit's going to be coming from a different station. Or it could, your closest fire unit may be coming from another district, like Security Fire Protection District. So there are factors involved, obviously. We shoot for a 3 to 4 minute response time. Our averages right now run anywhere between 4 and 8, depending on what factors we factor into those averages, as far as whether that first due unit is in-house, whether it's not. So we've really looked at those statistics and looking at ways to improve those numbers. We've recently made an investment in a station alerting system for all 3 of our fire stations, which has a number of benefits, but one of those benefits is earlier notification and ideally getting our units, our turnout time decreased from the time we get the alarm until we're out. So I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but.
It helps me understand the process, so that helps, yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Let's see here. So this is a kind of a touchy subject, I think, in Fountain, and especially up on the Mesa, but the 4th of July, okay? It seems like there are years we enforce the illegal fireworks rules, and there are years we don't. It seems like it's kind of out of control. You know, we sit in our backyard on the 4th of July, and people are shooting off mortars, and they're extremely obnoxious on top of other stuff. You know, we're in the backyard, and it's burning little holes in our umbrella and our lawn chair cushions because of the stuff falling out of the sky. So I guess my question is, who's responsible for enforcing that, given the liability associated with those fireworks, especially on a red flag day or, you know, a dry condition day?
Thanks for the question, sir. My apologies to everybody for being late. So as a general rule, the police department's going to be responsible for enforcing those firework regulations and the city ordinances that we have in place. You're not wrong. In certain years, I would say in the last 3 to 5 years, there's been times when we've enforced it differently than others. We're always enforcing it. But as I've noticed, and you've noticed, and I'm sure everybody in the room has noticed over the last 2, 3, 4 years, really since COVID, we've lost control of that situation. Fireworks are abundant throughout the city. They're abundant throughout the state. Colorado Springs, especially this region, the Pikes Peak region, fireworks are out of control. Everybody is shooting them off everywhere. To that point, the police department does the best we can with the resources we have. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we sent officers out on specific demands from the public to go out and deal with fireworks with specific houses. We go to those houses, we go to those neighborhoods, we shut down the fireworks while we're there. We go to the next neighborhood, take Heritage for an example, where I know there's a lot of them. And while we're at Heritage, the folks over in Cumberland Green are shooting off the fireworks that we just told them to stop shooting off.
Right.
And we're going back and forth and back and forth. And we issued a few summons. I don't remember what the number was that first year we really had the city ordinance passed. We issued a handful of summons, and those people showed up to court, paid their fines, et cetera. We're trying to get a handle on it, and to be honest with you, I don't have all of those answers. We do work in conjunction with the fire department because ultimately they're the ones that are going to be cleaning up the pieces after something gets caught on fire, somebody's house or tree or whatever it is, and of course that's the last thing we want to happen. So this year we're going to try some new techniques. I'll be personally out there myself this year, and we're going to see how this goes and kind of tackle it one thing at a time. I know I didn't really answer your question. But that's the reality of the situation right now.
Well, you did, and the effort's appreciated. Good luck, because I know it's, you know, we've dealt with it before, and like you said, you shut them down, and then as soon as you leave, they start back up again.
And we try to, you know, we do all the public education on social media, and we try to get it. I mean, we're going to be doing this probably starting very soon here with fireworks, 4th of July. Their fire meter's going to go up, and the wildfire situation is going to become severe here pretty soon, is my guess. So, you know, we're going to do our best to social media, send out alerts, text message. We now have the capability, right, to do that. We can send out messages to the folks that are registered. So we're going to try everything we can to educate up front. And on the day of, or the few days during the week of the 4th of July, we'll get out there as best we can. And we like to say we have a zero tolerance policy, but it's really hard when I've got 10 officers working. And again, they're doing other calls during fireworks. Sure. I mean, they're doing other things, so.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see here. Is there open burning allowed in city limits? It seems like my neighbors are open burning, and I'm not sure if I should call that in. It just, you know, again, with that fire just a couple houses down, what should I do if someone's open burning in their backyard?
Yeah, all right, so Wayne Kresmian, Fire Marshal. There are very strict parameters for open, quote-unquote, burning or pile burning of that nature. Things that are outside of manufactured fire pits or out of approved fire pits do require permits. They also require a permit from the county for for a Clean Air Act. So there's a lot of different avenues. If you're seeing somebody open burning, it's one of those that you can give us a call and we can come out and take a look at it. One of the things that's encouraged when we issue burn permits or with the campfire permits and the manufactured fire pits, that's the word I was looking for, sorry, is that they do talk to their neighbors about that and let them know that, hey, we have a burn permit from the city. We're going to be burning on these days within reason of if there is high fire danger. When we do issue a burn permit, which is not often, as of this point, there are strict regulations that go with it, and they do have to call, not notify the fire department, but they have to check with the fire department to make sure that we're not moving into a high fire danger or a high fire situation. And at that point in time, if it is high fire danger, the permit is null and void. Until that fire danger comes back down, and then we can reschedule at a later time.
So if it's a red flag day, they should not be.
If it's a red flag day,
burning, whether they
there
have a
should not
permit
be
or not.
open burning.
Okay.
Now, again, with your manufactured fire pits, that is something that if it's listed or regulated, like you can pick them up at your big box stores, that is something that we don't permit at this time.
Okay, good to know. All right, that's it. Thank you all for this, this meeting and fielding my questions. Thanks.
Darrell Couch. I'm curious if there's any, I'm in the area that's immediately across the tracks where there's about 65 acres of agricultural property and most of it's grass because there's only 4 residences in there. Every one of us has large adjudicated ponds. Is there any effort at all to, when I first came here in 2006, they came out and checked my property, did some drills on my property to pump out of my pond, but I don't think that's happened on any of the other areas. I wonder if there's any, because it's mostly there. We do have a lot of issues with kids in the summertime building fires down along the railroad tracks. I've chased them off a pond terrace a number of times, but I just wonder what kind of cooperation is going on there.
Mike Skeldum, Lieutenant Wildland Fire Coordinator. So, Mr. Couch, that's a great question. You're talking about the kind of the pond terrace area, like those ponds on there. Those are privately owned ponds. So for us to be able to utilize those ponds, we have to have an actual agreement between the homeowner and us. That's with any kind of pond that wouldn't be just an open just body of water in an area there. For instance, like the Fountain Valley Nature Center, they have 2 ponds back there. We currently have an agreement there. In the event of a wildfire, we could use their water to be able to use it. In the event of a catastrophic emergency, we do have the ability just to go and do what's best for it and then come and talk to you at the other point. But for the most part, we try not to use the homeowner's water if needed. We try to get it from the city municipal hydrant supply if possible. Does that answer your question?
Well, these are all spring-fed ponds. We all use them to irrigate with, but there's several acre-feet of water there. And as far as I know one of my neighbors told me that they had been told years ago that there was not adequate access to their pond. I don't know that. I don't know if anybody's ever come out and checked. I do know that they came in and did drills on my property back in 2006 because they ran a siphon hose out of one of my ponds. But the major one is the 1 acre pond that's in the bottom corner of my property, mostly on the property adjacent to me. I know that property's up for sale. The gal that owns it doesn't even live in the state anymore. So, I mean, if there's an interest in currying that kind of relationship, I'd be happy to try and get everybody together.
Yeah, Mr. Couch, I'm very familiar with that property, and actually I was the one who did drills on your property back then. Thank you for letting us do that at that time. What I'd say is come meet with me afterwards, and then I'll sit and I'll talk to you and just kind of explain how we do it, how our capabilities are getting in there. Just so everybody knows, we do have the ability to, our fire engines have what's called drafting capabilities. So in the event that we use our water from our tank and we're out, we can, in the event of an emergency or we have a contractual agreement with you, to pull water out of that pond. We can get it close enough, and I know exactly the pond you're talking about, and that is draftable for us. But if you come find me afterwards, I'd be happy to talk with you.
Are there any other questions? Anybody would like to come to the podium?
Hello. My name is Cleophas Acosta, and I want to present my grandson.
Hello, my name is Lorenzo, and thank you, gentlemen, for opening this communication. I'm inspired to my family's history as a full-blooded Americans. I was wondering, could it be possible to paint our American flag on our fire hydrant?
So Wayne Kresmian, Fountain Fire Marshal. So one of the difficulties when the fire hydrants are actually painted the way they are currently, they actually have a representation and a meaning for that. The color of the body of the fire hydrant actually signifies who owns that fire hydrant, whether it's a public entity or a private entity. And then the bonnet or the very top of the fire hydrant actually signifies to us what rating that fire hydrant has, so how many gallons per minute that fire hydrant can put out. So that information is very valuable to our first responders when they're responding to a fire on what color coding is with that hydrant, on can they use it, and how much water can they expect to get out of it. And it also plays into with the water department's testing. Sometimes when people paint them different colors, anybody who's been down Highway 85, 87, I believe it's just north of the, by the vet clinic there. Yeah, so there's a vet clinic right there. They actually have a fire hydrant painted in their front area as a Dalmatian. However, that one is an out-of-service hydrant. It's not connected to anything. And that is something that we know about and has been put out to crews, that the fire hydrant is not in service. It is, as we refer to it, yard art. So they have created a decorative out of an old out-of-service fire hydrant. But if it's an in-service fire hydrant, the colors and the markings on them, they do have a pretty decent significance to our responders when we're going out.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, everybody here. Everybody here. A moment of silence, please. I want to speak to everybody in the room about one of the things that has come to my attention in this meeting, and correct me if I'm right, that people are starting fires all over the city. What people? Are these homeless people? That's my question.
Thank you for the question, sir. I think probably brought up by Gordy with his presentation. I think specifically drawing attention to instances where what we believe to be juveniles go into those wooded, concealed areas and light what would be characterized as a campfire.
Okay.
Now, I do think that there are instances of arson that have occurred in the last several months.
Okay.
But those specifically are still under investigation, but I think to characterize it as starting fires all over the city is probably a mischaracterization of that. I think there's certain areas that are more prone to it because of the topography and the amount of vegetation that's there and the relative remoteness of the areas. And so that kind of lends itself to an area where juveniles might go in and set a campfire or do something of that nature. But I would say that no, we don't have people lighting fires all over the city of Fountain. If anybody agrees or disagrees with that, you can certainly jump in, but that would be my thought on that.
I'm sorry, that's the way I understood it, and that caused some concern. So I was concerned for my fellow citizens. They may have thought the same thought. So I wanted to put my mind at ease to help them put their mind at ease if they were wondering the same thing. Based on the fact that I mentioned the term or the phrase, put my mind at ease. This meeting that you gentlemen have combined through your collaborated efforts has accomplished its mission in my heart. I feel comfortable. I feel safe. I've lived in Fountain for 39 years. I was born in Ohio. I was raised in Texas. And my heart is a native Coloradoan, my love. I came to this state, and I'll try to be brief. I came to visit this state to ask for my wife's hand in marriage, and I met a gentleman by the name of Adolfo Zavala, her father. This gentleman was a very graceful gentleman. And I had his respect immediately. This gentleman fought in Vietnam. In 1966, he volunteered. That's the year both my wife and I were born. 1966, my father, who was also in the military, perished. So, consider myself a true, full-blooded American. Blooded in the sense that my Americanship has been paid through blood. My lineage is connected to this country through its blood. And I decided to make my peace in my old days and the rest of my life by raising my family in this great state of Colorado. This is the most beautiful state, in my opinion, that I have ever experienced. Based on that, it has inspired me to raise my family here and use all the knowledge that my bloodline has taught me to protect my family. So that's why we decided to move to Fountain. And we live out in countryside. And we feel safe. I don't lock my doors at night. I don't lock my automobiles because of people like you. And that's what our founding fathers and our fathers that have fought in battles were focused on. So, my grandson, through this inspiration, came up with an ingenious idea, I thought, in my opinion. That's why I thought it would be important for him to come and voice it. You see, the young are wanting to express themselves. See, the 4th of July is creating an issue, but we have to understand why. It's tied to the founding of this country. And our children are aware of that. They're brats. They want to do what they want to do. And that's all right with me. Because that's what it means to be a real American. To be free. Now, let's take this problem and let's turn it around and not think of it as a problem. Together, united. And let's turn it into an opportunity to do something different. Fountain has been declared an all-American city. That means we are responsible to set an example for the rest of America. Now let's take a moment to think about that for a second. Our Declaration of Independence was designed by our founding fathers to evolve, to expand, to push our limits. Our great president, JFK, understood that. That's why he was our great president. He inspired us to reach for the moon, where no other man on earth has ever reached. And we can only do that through a collaborated effort. Now, based on that collaborated effort, your experiences were necessary. And that necessity is a cry. And we must soften our minds and quit struggling. Struggling is war. And we can't have that kind of crap. So let's take it one little step at a time. Let's plant. Pardon me. Let's plant a mustard seed to inspire the rest of America. Because that's what our founding fathers have taught us through our Declaration of Independence. How can you tell people in the future what's going to happen if you somehow understand the future? The future that we are inspired to reach is heaven. That connects us to God. So we have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but most high, to God. And He has provided us with a country that allows us to express His precious gift to us, our free will. That's why the kids are out blasting firecrackers. That's why they're out trying to create campfires. They are crying. It is not a negative. It is a positive. It is an opportunity. So let's figure a way to modify the design of the fire hydrant, and let's keep the communication, what the representation is. That's a fix. Let's evolve it. One little simple way, by putting the American flag on it. Let's figure it out. Challenge. That's what we are about, the challenge. Man, I love my country. I'm sorry, I'm a very colorful person. I've never fought in battle, and I've never served my country in the armed forces. I don't have to. My daddy did. So did my grandpa. And he did it so that I can enjoy heaven with my children on earth. That is our responsibility. Now let's work together and figure it out. And let's put our mind at ease. And let's trust in the people that protect us. They volunteered. They, with their free will, made one choice. I am going to build my kingdom in heaven by protecting others. Thank you. Thank you. And God bless everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for those comments. If you would, before you leave, get with Chief Cass and we'll have a conversation.
Okay.
Is there anybody like to come down and ask any questions? All right. Well, thank you all for those questions and the opportunity to answer them. If you have any additional questions, that's kind of what the next time frame is for. We're going to transition into kind of a one-on-one. You're free to come up and talk to any of us. Go talk to Mr. Bills back there about the peak alert, get signed up for that, get information to pass out to your neighbors. And then we've also got the handouts to go with the slideshow today that'll provide all the information on our mitigation efforts and what you can do to protect your homes. That kind of concludes the formal portion of this presentation, and so feel free to mill around and approach anybody and ask any questions that you may have. Thank you guys very, very much for coming.